In any crowded room, the energy is usually focused on the noise. 90% of the people inside are locked on whoever is speaking, reacting to hand gestures and raised voices. They are so busy processing the conversation that they completely overlook the person sitting perfectly motionless. This focus on the surface level of interaction makes most people easy to read. They become predictable participants in social hierarchies and alliances they don't even realize are being formed around them. But a small percentage of people look past the dialogue. They understand that the most valuable information isn't found in what people say, but in how their bodies react when they think no one is paying attention. This approach relies on identifying involuntary biological reflexes. By isolating specific physical triggers, you can begin to see the tension between a person's spoken words and their actual internal state. Moving from a passive listener to an observer changes your role in the room. You stop guessing what people mean and start recognizing the patterns they are unable to hide. The first step is mapping the room's hidden connections. In a meeting or a group of friends, the surface level looks like a unified group. To see the actual alliances, you have to wait for a moment of sudden shared emotion. When a group erupts into laughter, the conscious mind drops its guard for a fraction of a second. A physical reflex takes over that reveals a person's primary social focus. Watch the eyes. In that first second of a shared laugh, every person's gaze will involuntarily dart toward the individual they feel most comfortable with, or the one they are most attracted to. By simply sitting back and tracking these lines of sight, you can see the hidden map of connections and power dynamics. Identifying allies is helpful, but you also need to know if you are being targeted. We've all felt the sensation of being watched from across a room, but turning around to check usually confirms to the watcher that they have your attention. You can confirm your suspicion without ever making eye contact. Simply perform a wide, exaggerated fake yawn while looking in a different direction, then immediately glance toward the person you suspect. Yawning is a biological contagion. If that person was actually watching you, their brain will likely trigger a yawn in response, forcing them to reveal their hidden focus without you saying a single word. Using these triggers provides a baseline for the room. It turns a confusing social environment into a predictable set of identified interests and attention. Macro dynamics provide the layout, but the pressure increases when you are one-on-one. This is where people use carefully crafted words to hide their motives or lead you toward a specific conclusion. To find the truth, ignore their facial expressions. Faces are practiced masks. Instead, lower your gaze slightly and focus on the movement of their chest. When a person consciously decides to lie or withhold information, the internal cognitive load creates a physical stress response that they cannot easily control. Look for a specific break in the rhythm. Their breathing will often slow down or pause momentarily as they formulate the lie, followed by a sudden increase in speed as their body reacts to the spike in stress. This often coincides with a tiny hesitation. If you ask a direct question and see a half-second pause before the first word, it usually indicates the brain is busy filtering a real emotion or constructing a safe answer. These biological anomalies are much harder to fake than a smile. When you see a respiratory shift paired with a micropause, you know the words that follow are a defense mechanism rather than the truth. Once you can detect these signals, you can move from just observing behavior to influencing it. In a heated or aggressive argument, you can utilize a pattern interrupt. Most people expect you to get angry or defensive, which fuels their own aggression loop. If you simply start eating food while they are shouting, you introduce a biological signal of safety. Eating is a passive act that signals your brain is not in a fight state, often forcing the aggressor's subconscious to de-escalate the tension. You can also manage someone's focus long after you've left the room. The brain is wired to struggle with unresolved information, a trait you can use to stay on someone's mind. Think of it like this unfinished circle. If you mention a secret and then refuse to reveal it, or abruptly end a conversation at a high point, you create an open loop. Because the brain seeks closure, the other person will often fixate on that missing information. This creates a persistent mental loop that can keep them thinking about the interaction for an entire day as they try to resolve the tension you left behind. These methods allow you to set the emotional tone of an interaction and influence what a target thinks about, without ever having to engage in a verbal confrontation. The most effective tool for gaining information combines everything learned about biological stress and psychological pressure. It doesn't require a complex interrogation, only the discipline to be still. If you suspect someone is hiding something, make a vague, calm statement like, "I know what you're doing," and then stop talking. Maintain steady, unblinking eye contact and do not offer any follow-up. Most people find a total lack of dialogue in a high-stakes moment unbearable. The silence creates a massive psychological vacuum that the other person will feel an intense, instinctive need to fill. As the tension builds, their subconscious usually betrays them. To break the pressure of the silence, they will often start over-explaining their actions, eventually revealing the very details they were trying to hide. By focusing on breathing patterns, micropauses, and the weight of silence, you begin to see a level of detail that others miss. Social situations become more manageable because the reactions of those around you become more predictable. The person with the most information is rarely the one doing the most talking. Use these observations as a shield to understand the motives of others and protect yourself from those trying to pull the strings.